Zane and the Hurricane, A Story of Katrina, by Rodman Philbrick. Chapter 16. Smoke on the Water. An hour or so later, I'm still a little shaky inside, like there's a cold place where a snake has slithered into my brain and won't go away. Very unusual, Mr. True says about the incident. Big mess of cottonmouth all together. Must be the flood drove 'em crazy. Never seen such a thing before. Likely won't see it ever again. He's trying his best to reassure me, saying how rare it is for a snake to come into a boat. But if it can happen once, it can happen again, right? And next time, he might not be so quick with his paddle. So I keep seeing wrinkles in the water and tensing up. And he keeps on paddling, slow and steady. We pass away from the drowned neighborhood into a wide place with a couple of big wrecked barges laying half submerged. The shipping channel, he says, and on the other side of the shipping channel the flood only comes up to the lower windows of the houses instead of the roofs. Mr. True says the water is no more than 3 or 4 feet deep, and he could get out and walk the canoe along if he had to, but me and Malvina beg him not to, and that's when I realize that despite all the joking around, she's just as scared of snakes as me. Stay in the boat, True, she pleads, stay in the boat. He promises he won't get out until the canoe bumps into dry ground. Come to that, it don't have to be exactly dry, he adds, musing. Soggy will do. How long we get there? Malvina wants to know. Long as it takes, but I expect before this day end we find us a good place. Maybe we would have too, if it wasn't for the smell of a cookout, which comes along about an hour later. Bandy sniffs at first, lifting his head and making hopeful little whines in the back of his throat. Then we all nod pretty much at the same time, and Malvina goes, Smell that? Somebody grilling. Uh-huh, you can see where they at, Mr. True says, pointing with his paddle. Thin white smoke rises behind a brick school building. The school is on high enough ground so there's only a few inches of water pooled around it. I'm 1,000 miles from home, but somehow it seems so familiar that it could be my own school. Right down to the old sign posted by the main entrance that says, All visitors must sign in at the main office. Mr. True paddles over, nudging the canoe up to the front steps. That's the first time I notice his foot hurts, because as he gets out of the canoe, he grabs his leg and grimaces in pain. True! Malvina cries. Ain't nothin', darlin'. Sore foot is all. Bumped it a little when the flood came. He takes a deep breath, forces a smile. You wait here while I check it out. He limps through the door into the school. So we sit there waiting, smelling that hungry smell. Pretty soon my stomach starts growling, and it growls so loud and so long that Bandy perks up his ears, as if he thinks there's another dog somewhere nearby. Malvina gets to giggling and can't stop. You real funny, you know that? She says. Sounds like you got the Lion King in your tummy. It is pretty funny, if you think about it. How your body makes noises whether you want it to or not. Some of them way worse than stomach growls. So I get to laughing too, and Bandy joins in with a couple of happy yips. We're still laughing when Mr. True limps out of school. You ain't gonna believe this, he says. Inside, the school smells kind of moldy and damp, but that's only like the bottom layer of all the smells. The top smell, the cooking smell, gets stronger and stronger as we head toward daylight at the end of a dark hallway. The fire doors have been propped open to a paved area behind the school, with an old rusty basketball hoop at one end. On the pavement, lined up like cars revving at a stoplight, are 3 gas cookout grills with delicious-smelling smoke pouring out from under the covers, and a bunch of folks crowding around with big smiles on their faces. These are the first happy faces I've seen since before the hurricane, and all those smiles make me want to smile too. My mom always says a smile's easier to catch than a cold, and as usual, she's right. Mr. True takes off his top hat and makes a little bow to the crowd. Thank you all, your hospitality much appreciated. The people gathered around the grills don't seem the least bit closed off about a few more hungry strangers crashing their cookout. The more the merrier, they keep saying, handing us plates. What happened is, they've been using a local elementary school as an unofficial shelter. Unofficial because the doors had been locked and they had to break it at the height of the flood when it was the only dry spot for miles around. With the power out, it made sense to empty the cafeteria freezers before the food thawed out and spoiled. So they're grilling up enough chicken wings and fish sticks for the whole neighborhood. Or those that stayed behind. Those that couldn't evacuate or chose not to and managed to survive the wind and the rain and the rising waters. Mr. True asks if we can make a few calls, but the phones are dead here too. Cell towers got blown out like everything else, one of the men explains. On the radio it said they got some landlines still good in Gretna, and could be some cell reception. Out to Jefferson, but who knows? Most of the city flooded, that's what they say. Gentilly, Metier, Tremé, Ninth Ward, St. Bernard Parish, all underwater. Mr. True nods to himself, as if this confirms what he suspected. Levees failed, he says. Nobody did nothing to fix them old levees. They mostly nothing but dirt, and they finally failed. Yeah, brah, they fail. We in the flow now. Police? Ain't seen no police. Ain't seen no National Guard. Ain't seen no Red Cross. Nuh-uh. We on our own. Malvina gets quiet in the company of all these adults, barely parting with her name when asked, and I realize she's pretty shy around strangers, which is kind of a surprise considering how talkative she's been with me and Mr. True. But even so, she's not shy, so shy that she won't dig out into a plate heaped with grilled chicken wings, quietly urging me to do the same. Better feed that lion, boy, she whispers. Bandy's having a good time, too. He doesn't stray far from my side, but people keep coming over and feeding him little scraps and saying what a good dog he is, which makes him shiver with pleasure. After a while, I kind of get it that talking about my dog is an excuse for people to check me out. Probably wondering what a light-skinned New Hampshire boy is doing in this particular neighborhood with these particular people, although they're too polite to ask directly. Mr. True mentions about my great-grandmother and how Gerard Dupree was my father, but nobody around here seems to know them, and the local folks sort of pull back, not wanting to push the subject, which is fine with me. Finally, Malvina leans over, speaking low. Maybe you an alien dude from outer space. Got the ears for it, like Mr. Spock. My hands automatically check my ears, which are mostly under my hair, and then I realize she's laughing softly, her sparkling eyes full of mischief. Got me, I say, dropping my hands. Oh, you easy, she says, giving me a little bump with her skinny shoulders. Thinking about it later, after all the bad stuff went down, and the good stuff, too, that's the moment when me and Malvina started to be true friends. Sitting there, eating our fill and joking around like we'd known each other for years. I even ate some fish sticks, which normally I hate, because she says New Orleans-style fish sticks are really good as long as you got some dipping sauce. And they did. In little plastic packets, like from McDonald's, only way better. We eat until we can't swallow another bite, and I'm starting to feel pretty good about everything. Like now that it's all over, all the scary stuff that happened was really just part of an exciting story I can tell my friends. And soon the phones will start working, and I'll call my mom and tell her to come get me, and everything will be fine. That part, that feeling good part, ends when this fearsome-looking dude with designer shades and thick gold chains slides up to us and goes, Well now, this is a surprise, Malvina Rollins, as I live and breathe. Too bad about your mama. Malvina looks at him the way she looked at the snake that slipped into our canoe. Chapter 17. Bad Trouble. This one time I was riding home on my bike, and a doe stepped out of the woods and just stood there, motionless. The sun was setting and everything sort of blended together. The woods and the leaves and the little speckled deer, and probably me on my bike too. Maybe that's why the doe didn't bolt back into the woods, because she thought standing completely still would make her invisible. It's like that with Malvina when the fearsome dude mentions her mom. She freezes. No expression on her face, like she's hiding somewhere deep inside herself. Right away, Mr. True comes over, a look of concern on his face. What's going on? You say something about this girl's mama? The dude in the cool shades and gold chains, He smiles, showing his strong white teeth. "Look who it is," he says. "True Blue Trudel, the trumpety man. You in luck, True, that I happened to run into you and the girl. You scaring Malvina. That ain't right." The man moves a little closer. He's not that much taller than Mr. True, but he's twice as big around, all edge and muscle. "I ain't scaring nobody," he says very quietly. "All I do mention how unfortunate is that her mom can't be here to look out for her, which is tragic, you know, on account of her situation." "What you want?" Mr. True says, looking worried. The man picks something from his teeth, flicks it away with his little finger. "You awares who I am, old man?" "Got an idea." "Then you already know me and Malvina's mom. We have some interest in common." "She work for you," Mr. True says grudgingly. "Nah, nothing formal. Person do me a favor, I do them a favor, like that. When Malvina's mamma went away, I wonder where her child might be at, case I could be of use, you know. But it like she'd disappear. They say you want to find something, stop looking, and there it be." So far Malvina hadn't said a word. She stares at the ground, not at the man, not at nobody. "What do you want?" Mr. True says again. "What I want? Ain't about that. It about Dillon Toomey doing a favor for a friend. You flooded, right? House gone? Nowhere to go? I'ma fix you up. Get you a dry crib, give you food, clothes, TV, anything you need. Let me watch over you and the girl. Make sure you all come to no harm." Mr. True starts to say something, but thinks better of it. He looks smaller, like the air has gone out of him somehow. After a moment he says, in a real meek voice, "Might be for the best, Mr. Toomey. We can sure enough use a roof over our heads." The man in the shades looks satisfied. "Good. We take care of your situation soon we done here." And then he saunters back to the grill, holding out his plate for another helping. Everybody making room for him, being extra careful not to step on his toes or offend him in any way. Mr. True crouches, smiling down at everybody, but talking to us in an urgent whisper. "Malvina, Zane, we in trouble, children, bad trouble. We got to move quick. Get ready now, you ready? I'ma go make a fuss, and when I do, you all run for that canoe fast you can." Malvina says, "What about you, True?" "I catch you up. Don't look back, just go." He stands, real casual, nodding and smiling like everything is okay, heading for the grill as if he wants another helping, too. And that's when he seems to trip over his bad foot and sprawls, knocking over one of the grills. Everybody screams. Me and Malvina were gone before the smoke clears, heading full speed back into the school, racing through the long, dim hallway and out into the bright sunlight. Me praying that nobody has stole the canoe, and they haven't, because there it is, battered and green and beautiful. Malvina leaps into the front, with Bandy right behind her. I give the canoe a shove and manage to climb aboard without tipping us over. Then Mr. True explodes out of the door, running and limping at the same time as he keeps hold of his battered top hat, yelling, "Go! Go!" He drags himself into the rear of the canoe. We're maybe 50 yards clear of the school, paddling hard, when Dillon Toomey saunters out, the sun glinting off his gold chains, pretending to dip a toe in the water and then recoil. He grins, like this is all a big joke, like he can't be bothered to chase us, not if it means getting wet. Then he gives us a little wave and shouts, "See y'all next time, that a promise."